How did you do that
rather.
differently from in Kenya from in England? Because you said that you got some of those bits wrong in England from standing up for the
Well,
player.
yeah, well, because it's far more, the politics are far more crass and simplistic in Africa than they are in in England. So the reality is that the most important thing is that if the players genuinely believed, and again it comes back to that word trust, and I gained their trust by action because there was reservations to start with, that I would consistently do the right thing for the team. And again, if one of them was out of order, he was pulled into line. But those conversations they were had with everybody, so everybody had an opportunity to speak up and challenge and find out why and what. Because I operated in transparency with the squad. We had some disciplinary issues where players did things that shouldn't have been done, and they were high profile players or the stars. And again, some players didn't agree because they were disagreeing on friendship rather than rationale.
Yeah.
And likewise, dealing with the board is very much the same way, to the point where, again, if my values were compromised, I would piss or get off the pot. And everybody knew that.
And did you, as a process, did you start with a end goal and end vision, or you didn't know where that? Did you have one, or did you work back from it, or what was your method?
Yeah, well, our vision was to score 100 points in 10 tournaments. That was our vision, because
you got to 99, didn't you? Is that
in 9 tournaments? In 9 tournaments, I was robbed of a tournament. I was ahead of schedule. So. Yeah, it was. That was how we worked back, because I'm not a big believer in this, that. I work on the performance KPIs, and I work on the behaviours of what they need to be as men and as rugby players, and then that will drive the result. And that was how I articulated it to the Kenyan board. But it requires them to be a part of buying into the behaviours as well. Yeah. So if I'm going to hold the players to task, I have a responsibility and leadership to hold the people above me to task as well. And that, I think, is an important part of leadership. If you're representing the people below to the people above, you have to hold them accountable as well. And good people at the top of a business want to be held accountable, want to be challenged. And if they don't, you've got to ask the reasons and the rationale why. So, where we ended up with Kenya is there were a lot of times where that was the case, and the chairman was very much comfortable with that, as was the treasurer. But the African politics and the way that boards work is that they might be the two most powerful individuals, but they only got 2 votes. So there was all of this lobbying and internal stuff that gets bought and sold in the world of Kenya, which was beyond me. I mean, I sat in a boardroom once. This is a great story. Yeah. I sat in a boardroom once, and literally we went around the table, and I was talking to the performance director, who was, let's just say, he wasn't straight down the line, to the point where he literally admitted to the board that he had lied for the last 3 months. So in an English board, there's only one outcome.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there going, well, he's just done that. They went, right, okay, then, brilliant, we'll move on. I was like, what do you mean we'll move on? We can't move on until he said, no, he's owned up. We don't cry over spilled milk, we move on.
How did you manage that?
Badly. I mean, those types of things that when I look back now, I laugh. At the time, it was one of those things I was like, you are kidding me. But that was the nature of the beast that I had to operate in. And it was a constant.
So how did you navigate around that? Because obviously you've got an end goal, an end process. You're taking this side to different places it's never been before. Yeah. Like, how did you manage that? It sounds like most of the issues were off field. Yeah. So how did you navigate that? Because that's going to be challenges that people face all the time as well.
I had to manoeuvre and work with the people that were prepared to be worked with. But no, the harsh reality of that is that you can only do that for so long, until something has to change. Because if the board is dysfunctional, then you're going to get very, very tired. And that is what happened, Ollie, if I'm honest with you. I mean, by the time we got to the end of the series, I was waking up to like 70 emails a day of one half of the board trying to upset the other half of the board, dysfunctional, and using the white kid in the middle. We got through that. I had sabotage, people trying to sabotage our World Cup camp and things like that. I finally got everybody out of Kenya, and we did it in England. And we went to the World Cup, and we lost narrowly in the semi-final to England in the rain.
Yeah, in the rain,
having been phenomenal. Never forgive the referee, but there we go. I'll let that go. And you know, best ever finish again for Kenya in a World Cup. We were recognised as where we were, but they still had this dysfunctional reality going on in the background, which I'd protected the players from for the whole season. But that, as a result, is again, it all landed on me, and there was nowhere else for me to go because there wasn't that infrastructure and support in place. So I was just getting...
Yeah. Would you have done anything different then? You just said you didn't have that support. Would you have fostered that?
Well, I fostered that with the individuals that I thought were the key stakeholders as best I could. But by the very same token, the way that the simplistic way it's set up in that particular instance, that board, it was very, very difficult. You know, I could have gone. I worked with there was another stakeholder called the patrons, but they were very hands off, and you had a lot of political manoeuvring there. And I think the lesson for me is that ultimately, you know, I'd done all I could do, and this is the only job I've ever walked away from, which I didn't really want to walk away from at that time. I was loving it, and I knew that we could kick on, but it was making me ill. So it comes back to that thing where I was tired. Like, I was really, really physically tired and mentally tired, and there was no end game because it was just too dysfunctional. And it was a real shame. And I had to, but I didn't shy away from the conversations. I sat with the senior boys who were all with me, and explained and went, and they understood. They were upset, as was I. I mean, you know, the big Kenyan boys. Yeah. I mean, we were in a room, we're all crying because but that's how it was. I just said I can't carry on, and it was a hugely emotional time for me because I don't like walking away from things, especially that I'm committed to hugely. But this just was not healthy for me at that time, which was a shame. I haven't got the answers, if I'm honest with you, Ollie, about what I could have done differently on that one. I mean, because it was such an immature dynamic and crass and simplistic without commercial reason. It
was about the purity. It was hard to navigate.
Yeah, I'd love another crack at trying to work that problem out at some time. It's.
Well, I mean, you said that it was unhealthy. It was doing you emotionally, physically exhausting, and then you decided to go and try and tame the biggest beast of all, accepted to become head coach for the USA. You know, this massive sleeping giant that nobody had managed to awaken. What was the thought process in that?